committed to stopping the illegal drug trade in our state. Thank you again for coming. I would now like to turn it over to Governor Braun.
Thank you, Colonel Hill. We've done several of these, and as he said, when I took office back in January of 25, it was clear that public safety is going to be our number one priority. Commander-in-Chief of the National Guard to boot. So we've done a lot to make sure that we're keeping our citizens safe. It's a big responsibility. I've come here today to celebrate the exceptional results that state police are showing in this region and across the state. State police disrupted the trafficking networks, moving meth, cocaine, and heroin throughout our communities. We're the crossroads of America, and sadly, that means they are going to be using this as a distribution hub. They've used every tool in their toolbox to crack down on crime and drugs in Indiana. First half of 26 seized nearly 49 pounds of meth in the southern region alone. In a single Vanderburgh County takedown, officers seized 28 firearms, roughly $50,000 in cash, 60 pounds of marijuana, and 4 ounces of meth. Through Operation Clocked Out, 29 traffickers were arrested across Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio for moving meth and cocaine from Louisville and Cincinnati into Jefferson County, Madison, Indiana. Operation Iceberg was a wire intercept investigation into a Louisville to Indiana drug pipeline. Resulted in 25 arrests, 251 years of Department of Corrections time ordered. In other words, if you're doing that here in this state, you're going to get ferreted out, you're going to get prosecuted, and you're going to pay the price. These are major victories for safer communities, for Hoosier families, and not just here, it's across the rest of our state, because every county is going to deal with this to some extent. And when you're doing it well, region by region, that has a ripple effect. To the men and women of the state police, the state of Indiana is proud of what you've done. When I charged you with the task of doing it, you've exceeded my expectations. We are proud to support Indiana law enforcement and secure safer communities for all of Hoosiers. Thank you. Take any questions you might have.
You talked about coke and meth and those drugs, but officials across the country have warned about that designer synthetic drug that's potentially 10 times stronger than fentanyl. What are you and state officials doing to curb that in Indiana?
So fentanyl is the precursor that been put into a lot of stuff, and now there's even one that is more lethal. So when you're disrupting the stuff that normally is occurring, you're disrupting it as well. And fentanyl is going to show up in almost every situation. Thank goodness the administration has been working with the source of precursors, which is China, and we've closed the southern border down. So we're hearing less of it. I visited twice the southern border when I was in the Senate, and when that was willy-nilly, and that is when we were dealing with the most issues. All forms of drugs are down because we've secured the southern border, and in enterprising states, for the stuff that does slip through, we're doing stuff like this, and it'll impact everything that's coming in illicitly.
And you talked about public safety. Obviously, there are the drugs, but there's also, an uprise in more kids committing violence. We've done stories on check washing scams, all of those things. Can you touch on any of those, what the state's doing?
So when it comes to youth being involved, there was a tragic incident that occurred in Indianapolis that was just heart-wrenching. When a 14-year-old actually shot somebody in his early 20s for no apparent reason, maybe a gang initiation or something. They're still trying to figure it out. We've got to stop that. And in places like Indianapolis, our state capital, where all kinds of conventions are held, in Indianapolis Municipal Police Department is going to get help from the state police. A year ago at the 4th of July, we had the shootout at OK Corral in downtown Indy. They asked for help. I sent state police in preemptively on the WNBA weekend. Going to be more of that. In places urban in nature have got to get their crime control under control. Police are generally doing their job, and then it boils down to prosecutors. And in the state of Indiana, we're not just going to watch blindly in terms of that happening. There's going to be more and more weighing in from state government in places that can't fix it on their own.
Is there anything you're doing specific to Southern Indiana?
Southern Indiana is going to be a place where the stuff we're talking about here, that kind of violent crime generally has been happening in urban areas. And hopefully what we're doing there, what we're doing across the state, tamps it down in general. And to me, the deterrent is that you prosecute the individuals that are responsible for these heinous crimes. That sends a message. And prosecutors do their job. They're funded well. Police generally do their job.
Governor, you're going to be going to Waynesville after this stop to do damage assessment, be there with state officials. Last year, we had flooding here in Clark County along the Ohio River. You did not come to any of those towns. And those people waited months for aid. Why come down this time, and what is your admin going to be doing to make sure people don't have to wait for a week?
So whenever we have incidents like that across the state, depending on how many occur, where they are, I'll try to get to as many of them as I can. But we've got a state agency that does that. We've got a great connection with the administration when it requires that kind of federal help to come in. Recently, I had to go visit up in Lake County where a tornado hit a small community hard. Sullivan, Indiana. I got hit like 3 years ago. I was a senator then. And I visit our counties more than all the governors in the past put together. I did it as a senator, 92 counties, squeezed that into generally 16 weeks when we were in recess. Now I hit all of them. I've already been to 64, and I'll hit the rest of them. I get to as many as I can, start the day early, end it late. And here, the schedule happened to be around being in Southern Indiana to where it made it work logistically. We'll be taking a look at that here later today.
What's your message to those who've been hit hard in those areas of Waynesville and Gordon?
Yeah, you expect your state to be there to help in every way it can. If not, we want to hear about it. When we need to engage federal assets and help as well, we'll do that. So the randomness of where storms hit, I think it was 8 inches of rain, all quickly. Hour and a half away, we got 0. So, you know, these things crop up this time of the year, and we're going to be responsive. And if there's anything that looks like we're not, we want to hear about it.
Do you see the need for any sort of federal or state assistance as far as like getting the roads back in working order? I know like a lot of the bridges yesterday between Lanesville and Corden were being inspected.
So that is where we take a look at it and generally have to declare a state disaster. And then if it's big enough, bad enough, that is when the feds look at it. So there's a process to it. All I can tell you is we've been getting at them quickly. One of the things I've tried to do coming from the business arena as opposed to the normal route that most governors take or senators is run things with metrics, with actually seeing if you're doing it well and inviting anyone to tell us if we're not. So that has got a process to it. If it crosses a threshold, the feds will come in to take a look at it as well.
What would be the state threshold for you as far as just a state?
There are certain parameters we go by in terms of how much the damage is. Can we handle it ourselves? Do we need the help?
Gut reaction, what do you think?
I'm going to take a look at it and we'll find out.
Today. Gotcha.
Yeah.
For gas prices, you've announced that holiday is extended. Can you talk on that?
So, well, it's very simple. In a year and a half, we've taken a state that was pretty well run before and running it, I think, better than any state in the country. Because how can you give up $140 million of tax revenue, excise and use tax? The first month, it was just $52 million because it was on use tax. It's because we got reserves. We got rainy day funds. We got the hottest economy in the Midwest, growing twice as fast as Illinois and Ohio's, 3 times as fast as Kentucky's, 6 times as fast as Michigan's. So we're getting a dividend on the revenue side, and we're definitely running our state government, getting more done with fewer resources. That's called productivity. That enables us to be able to get through tough stretches. I was surprised no other governor did it. Well, half of them wouldn't have the reserves to do it, and the other half probably didn't have the nerve to do it. We had the reserves. I knew it was important. And this issue of affordability, I don't care what it is, property taxes, utility rates, high healthcare costs, which is the proudest thing I did. I fixed it 18 years ago in my business by basing it on wellness and prevention, not expensive remediation. The whole gamut, especially for moderate and lower income families, affordability is real. And I'm going to be tackling that as the main thing I focus on as we keep ginning up our economy and running state government better. I think that's one of the things you gain by being entrepreneurial and having run a business before you became a senator or a governor.
How long can you provide that holiday before the funds run out?
So I can do it legally for 1 more month. And then the legislature would have to weigh in.
And with the rainy day funds, obviously that's helping curb some of the loss, but are any road projects or anything like that being impacted?
No. The biggest issue on roads anywhere, including Kentucky and any other state, is how do you fund them long term, especially when states are responsible for the upkeep on interstates and parkways. And the greatest generation built them, didn't borrow any money, and paid off our World War II debt. All of us are going to have to be figuring out what we're going to do to keep them in good shape, not to mention trying to add lanes in places. That'll be another capital intensive project that enterprising states will figure it out. Others will be wondering why. And then the federal government has to start living with it in its means, where it's not borrowing $2 trillion a year on a $7 trillion budget, because they in the past have paid for most of major road projects across all states.
You said that with the holiday that you can extend it for 1 more month. Is there consideration for, asking legislature and other people to kind of extend it if necessary, or is one?
I'll look at that when we get there. And I think with what we're seeing in the Mideast, Iran's running out of more and more options. You've noticed oil prices and gas prices have generally come down. That's because a lot of that oil that was being clogged up in the Straits of Hormuz, it's moving in other ways. I think it's been a good plan. All prior administrations stuck their head in the sand when it came to Iran getting a nuclear weapon. And that is something we should keep in mind. Almost anyone would not want that to happen. But it looks like we're navigating through that. And I was able to help here because we're a well-run state. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Touching on affordability, you mentioned utility costs.
Yeah.
That is one of the main pushbacks of a data center here in Clark County,
Yep.
in Charlestown. Is your administration, state lawmakers, are they looking at any action to kind of uniform policies across the state?
I'm a big believer in local rule. We got 92 counties. And I can tell you one thing, any data center that comes into this state, they're paying for every penny of the construction, and they're going to be putting more electrons onto the grid to lower prices. AEP, one of our investor-owned utilities, is going to be coming out with a case where that's actually happened. The ones that snuck in early, thank goodness, were small ones, but they did drive up utility rates. And I was the only governor, I think, in the country that reconstituted their regulatory agency to be ratepayer conscious. I replaced 3 of the 5 board members to not be a rubber stamp for investor-owned utilities and other electric generators. Keep the ratepayer in mind. So data centers, every county needs to look at it. They will give you a bunch of really high-paying jobs, tons of construction jobs, probably lower your property taxes, but it's going to be up to you. Make sure it makes sense. Don't be reflexively against it or for it without sorting it out.
Can you talk about the Bears coming to Indiana?
I thought somebody might bring that up. That's a tale of 2 states. When you're an iconic franchise like they are, they started 6 years ago trying to talk to the city of Chicago in the state of Illinois.